Today, we're going to dive into the life of one of Southern Thailand's most revered monastic figures, Luang Pho Phet Wachiro, a man whose name, you'll see, perfectly captures his spirit. They called him the Diamond.
So, you gotta ask yourself, how does a boy from a pretty small, remote island grow up to become one of the most important spiritual leaders of his time? Well, let's trace that incredible journey.
Our story kicks off right there on the island of Koh Phangan, with the birth of a boy who would later be known to thousands as Luang Pho Phet, which means the Venerable Father Diamond.
Okay, so let's set the scene. His given name was Phet Phromsanit, born way back on August 9th, 1847. Now, you have to picture Koh Phangan back then. It's not the tourist hotspot we might think of today. We're talking about a genuinely remote, pretty isolated place. And that's the world he was born into, as the youngest child in his family.
His journey toward a spiritual life really began when he was very young. The local abbot saw something special in him pretty early on and took him under his wing. You know, his path wasn't some sudden, dramatic calling. It was this really deliberate, step-by-step progression. He started his formal studies around age 13, became a novice monk at 17, and then hit that huge milestone of full ordination when he turned 21. And this is absolutely key. When he was ordained, he was given the monastic name Wachiro. It translates to one with the strength of a diamond. Talk about prophetic, right? That name would come to define the incredible resilience and clarity he showed for the rest of his life. But for Wachiro, getting ordained wasn't the finish line. Not at all. It was really just the starting gun for this relentless quest for deeper knowledge and spiritual truth.
His thirst for knowledge was just unquenchable. It took him from his little island over to the mainland city of Chaya to study the monastic code. And then, eventually, all the way to the capital, Bangkok, always seeking out the greatest teachers he could find.
But in Bangkok, he slams into a major roadblock. A hearing impairment made it almost impossible for him to follow lectures. So what did he do? Did he give up? No way. He adapted. He completely shifted his focus to the intense, text-based study of the Vinaya. That's the foundational rulebook for every single aspect of a monk's life. Then, just when you think his journey couldn't get more intense, he takes it to a whole other level. He sets off on a thudong, a super austere, wandering pilgrimage that forest monks practice. And get this, his journey, all on foot, took him through Burma, to the sacred Buddhist sites in India, and then all the way to Sri Lanka. For that time period, that kind of trip was just almost unimaginable. So after all those years of intense study and this epic pilgrimage, he was finally called to come home. And all that knowledge he'd gathered was about to transform him into the leader his community really needed.
The moment he got back to Koh Phangan, his wisdom and his worldly experience were impossible to ignore. His rise through the ranks of the Sangha, the monastic community, was fast and steady until he was eventually responsible for the spiritual well-being of the entire island chain. And this all led to 1922, when he was given the royal monastic title of Phra Khru Viboon Thammasarn. This was a huge deal. It was formal recognition from the kingdom itself, acknowledging his massive contribution to the stability of the entire monastic community across both Koh Phangan and Koh Samui. So in his final years, Luang Pho Phet faced his biggest personal battle, and he faced it with that same diamond-like strength he'd shown his entire life. He developed oral cancer, which, as you can imagine, caused him tremendous pain and made something as basic as eating incredibly difficult. And yet, even with this terrible illness, his commitment to his duties and his community just never, ever wavered. You know, when you just look at his life by the numbers, the sheer scale of his dedication is staggering. His entire existence was completely defined by his spiritual path. He passed away in 1924 after living a really full and impactful life of 79 years. And of those 79 years, an incredible 58 were spent as a monk. Just think about that for a second. That's nearly 3/4 of his entire life dedicated to service and study. It's just amazing. So in the end, the story of Luang Pho Phet, the Diamond Monk, it really shows that a true legacy, a lasting one, isn't about the titles you earn. It's about having the willingness to walk across countries for knowledge, the grit to adapt when you face a challenge you can't just power through, and the commitment to dedicate your life not to some end goal, but to the journey itself.